Yeah, so good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Christina Science, and we are so happy to have you for this webinar. I'm joined by my amazing colleagues. I have Edwin Marrero and Brenda Payne, as well as Tracy Jean Kromberg and Brian Lombardo. And we are all here to support this webinar event tonight in different capacities. But the first thing I want to do is just give us a chance, each of us, to introduce ourselves, and we will do that now. I think it's important anytime we have one of these events that you understand who we are and why we believe in this and how we came into the Invention education world. So I'm happy to start. Yeah, like I said before, I'm Christina Science. I'm from Orlando, Florida. Although I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. I am a unique mix, as my mother is from Birmingham, Alabama, and my father is from Bogota, Colombia. So I'm a very interesting hodgepodge of cultures. But I grew up in Orlando. I played a lot of soccer growing up, played soccer in undergrad, then moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where I learned to become a teacher. I went to school, did my master's at Northeastern and became a teacher. And after 5 years of teaching in both Boston and Orlando, I went back to school and I got my doctorate in education with an emphasis on inclusive STEM. So I believe that, and you'll hear about this throughout the webinar tonight, that Invention education is inclusive STEM. It's a way to engage those learners who don't see themselves as STEM people and make STEM sticky for those who, for those groups that are underrepresented and marginalized in many STEM fields. And also, in addition to those wonderful things that Invention education does, it's not just about STEM. We'll learn about how it's about this transdisciplinary approach, about bringing all subject areas together, all people together for the most rich and exciting outcomes. So that's a little bit about me and why I love Invention education. And I'll pass it over to my wonderful colleague, Brenda, who is one of the first people in the United States who was leading Invention education initiatives.
Oh, that makes me as old as I am. So I am Brenda Payne, and I was an educator for a fourth grade class long ago with a friend. We'd open up our doors and we had 60 students. We were a gate magnet school and we were everything else as well. And so we had very diverse learning styles, and we were looking for a program that might be able to meet the needs of all those diverse styles. And we came up with Invent America, which was sort of a forerunner to invention programs throughout the country. We wrote curriculum for it because there wasn't very much then. And I ended up becoming a principal at 5 different schools. I'm in California, I'm in Santa Cruz, California. And I gave up much of my curriculum to a lot of teachers and then retired. And next thing I knew, I was 3 months into retirement and asked to become an interim superintendent. And I started a program called the California Invention Convention and used some of the materials that we had. And we've been doing invention education with students throughout the country ever since. I have about 30,000 students in California that are involved with invention education. And that's where I am at present.
Awesome.
I will turn that over to Edwin.
Thanks, Brenda. Hey, everyone. My name's Edwin. Like Christina, being a hodgepodge of cultures, I'm actually was born on the island of Puerto Rico. I moved up to the States when I was younger. For me, my journey starts with when I graduated college. I wanted to try to make an impact, specifically in the education setting. So I became a teacher. I taught in New York City public schools. I taught middle school mathematics in a school in Manhattan. And I felt the impact and I felt like the joy that comes with leading a classroom group of young people. And I aspired to make an even bigger impact. And I talked to a good friend of mine at college, and he told me about the great work that Lemelson MIT was doing with invention education. And I saw a lot of alignment in the work that I was trying to bring with my math curriculum over to Lemelson and their Invention education curriculum, the offerings that we have here. So I've been with Lemelson for a year now, and I've loved my time here, and I'm interested to tell you all more about Invention education this webinar tonight.
Yeah, and we also have two members of our comms team who we have to give a shout out to because we could not do it without them. We have Tracy and Brian. I just don't know if you want to say hi real quick.
Well, I just want to say to my fellow Southerners out there, I'm originally from Mississippi, even though I've been living up in Cambridge for over 20 years. So hello, everybody, and hope you enjoy the webinar tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm not going to hold things up too much, but enjoy the webinar.
Yeah, that's Brian. Brian makes everything happen for us on these webinars, so we thank him for it. Okay, so we'll jump right in. We will talk about a little bit about the Lemelson MIT program. Who are we, right? We have 27 years of experience in administering a national prize program and recognizing prolific and collegiate inventors. We also have 20+ years experience with our flagship program, which is the Invent Teams initiative. And much of what we've learned from our Invent Teams initiative has guided the work that we move into now, which is our Partners in Invention Education program, which we'll tell you about a little later. But those 20 years of experience with Invent Teams also brings with it 18 patents, which have been earned by high school inventors from throughout the United States. Which is very exciting. And we also have 15 staff members, and our faculty director is Dr. Michael Sema, who is one of the original inventors of the 3D printer. So he comes with a lot of street cred in this space, and we're lucky to have him. This brings us to, we have obviously our program. We have over 20, almost 30 years of experience learning about what is Invention education and how students respond to it. And just to share with you a little bit of definition, a working definition that we use, and the invention process. So invention education, it's an approach that teaches people how to find, understand, and then define problems and design new, useful, and unique solutions that contribute to the betterment of society. So we get the question a lot, well, why is invention education different than engineering? How is this not just engineering design or problem-based learning? And the answer to that is with invention education, this is something that Dr. Sema will share too. And he was sharing it at our last retreat, and it really resonated with me, is that what makes invention education unique is we don't give the students a pre-packaged problem. The students have to identify the problems within their own communities, and the whole first half of the invention process, or a large chunk of that invention process, is understanding who experiences those problems and how they experience those problems. Brenda, will you jump in and share a little bit more? I just realized I'm taking over on your slide.
Oh, no, we're fine. You're doing great.
You do this better than me. So that's my take on it. So.
We've come up with this design model of how do students go about identifying problems that they find in the community or in the world or in their own lives, and then how do they go about solving those problems. And that image that we put together shows that students take their ideas and then they have to research them to see whether it's unique to them, it's something that many people solve. And we want them to really understand, are the solutions that they're thinking about solving, are they unique as well, or are they ideas that other people have already come up with solutions to? And so now they need to start thinking about innovating upon those solutions. And they come up with designs, and then they take their designs and they present them to other people. They get feedback on them, and then they build a prototype and test it out. And then they go through that process many times. They continue to improve upon their designs and then build and test them again. And as many times as it takes for them to come up with something that is either an idea that can conceivably work or something that they'll be able to continue working on in the future. And they can come up with a prototype that's either a working prototype or a non-working prototype. But probably the most important part of this whole process is they get to communicate their ideas from the beginning of the process all the way through. And we've learned that communication skills for students just improve and improve upon going through this whole process. And that for us is one of the most important pieces of it.
Thanks, Brenda. And then Edwin's going to tell us a little bit about, so why do we need invention education? You heard what it is, and then why is it important and why is it so timely?
Yeah, so we live in a world today that has a lot of problems, as we all know, and even in the future, there will even develop more problems. So we do need a group of people, specifically like keeping in mind our young people that we service in our classrooms, to have them develop these problem-solving skills, use their creative ideas, and bring their own robust experiences that they have from their own home, their communities, like their village, so to speak, needed to address these complex problems that exist in the world today. And through invention education, they can utilize their problem-solving skills, and they can further develop these skills and their mindsets, their creative mindsets, to thrive in the future that is yet to be determined, in industries yet to be imagined, or even in jobs yet to be created.
Yeah, so our executive director, Stephanie Couch, always says that these students who come out of the invention education experience, they're creating the jobs of tomorrow. They're not just being prepared to fill jobs that exist, but they're developing jobs that don't yet exist based on their experiences that through this. So I apologize in advance. I'm a little under the weather. That's why my voice sounds so raspy. And if I'm coughing, I apologize. But we want to bring up that it's not just us. We're not the only ones that, have came up with this exciting idea of invention education. The federal government has actually cited invention education as an established method of convergence education. So invention education, we have, the singular disciplinary education, which is how many schools function today. You have your math class, you have your ELA class, those two blocks take up the majority of the day. You have your science, maybe if you're lucky, little social studies if you're super lucky. But what we try to do, and what invention education does, is it moves beyond even just multidisciplinary, which would be students learning concepts separately, but showing how they could merge together. And even,
Can I just for a little bit?
oh, sorry.
I mean,
So, and even beyond interdisciplinary. So what invention education is, it's transdisciplinary in that it becomes these content areas, these areas that were siloed previously. It's hard to even pick apart where one subject ends and the other begins, because it's at the convergence of all of the subjects. So that is something that's exciting for us, that we were acknowledged by the federal government. And it's something that it's a mindset that we need for the future, for students to not only see math skills as applicable in the math class, but is seeing all of these subjects converging in invention education, which is how they'll solve these really complex and messy problems that we have all created for our children and for the next generation.
And so in 2018, Raj Chetty, who was a professor, one of the youngest professors ever at UC Berkeley, ended up going to Harvard and working with a group of other educators to study over 1 million inventors to find out what is it that creates an inventor. And what he learned is that inventors have to be able to see themselves as inventors in other people. And without that as a model for students, it is really difficult for them to imagine that they can become inventors as well. And so he discovered that specifically females and diverse populations of young people were being left out of the patenting that takes place in invention, and the whole idea of feeling that they can become inventors too. We discovered that if girls were exposed to female inventors at the same rate that boys are to male inventors, the gender gap in the innovation would fall by half. And what he says too is that the gender gap in innovation is shrinking gradually, but At this rate, it would take another 118 years to reach gender parity. That's quite a statement. He also discovered that we're seeing a whole lot of white males as inventors. We're raised, all of us have been, with the idea that Thomas Edison was an inventor of the light bulb, perhaps, although that was very questioned, or that Ford created the car, the automobile. Those are the inventors. When you ask students about who do you know is an inventor, that's who comes to mind, old white guys. So what Raj Chetty says is that the entire economy would improve if we were to bring in the females as inventors and diverse student populations as inventors. We would change the whole economy of the country. And so we are working really hard to make sure that this is accessible to all people throughout the country, all young people, and that we start exposing them to more and more people like themselves. The last little fact was white children were 3 times as likely as Black children to be inventors. So we just need to always stay conscious of how important it is to be able to bring everyone to the table.
Absolutely. Well said, Brenda. And so that leads us into our next slide of the importance of the pathway to invention. If we know that exposure in childhood matters, then it's like anything else. If we start students in kindergarten, pre-K, developing these skill sets, and not only the skill sets, but also building that identity within themselves that I am an inventor. I know I can do this. I always use the example of, I was a soccer player and I played all throughout my life. If I would have started when I was 16, that'd be a pretty steep on ramp to get into that but starting at 5 years old, like many students do, particularly male students, starting 5, 6 years old in robotics, you can get pretty strong in those problem solving skills, coding, many of the fundamental principles that help with invention. If we start children on that young, they have a much better chance of developing into inventors and feeling as if they know they can invent. Part of it is the technological skills, but just as equally important is knowing that they belong there and that they are in fact an inventor. And that is developed through continuous practice and engagement in inventing. That's why we advocate for embedding invention education within the school day, so that all students have equitable access to this. We know that each student brings unique strengths into this transdisciplinary work, and that we know that having these opportunities that Brenda mentioned earlier to present and communicate those ideas also solidify their identities as inventors. And then Edwin's going to talk a little bit about just the common elements of Invention Ed.
Yeah, so some common elements of invention education. I've led a deep dive of our invention process a few times with young groups of students that we've had either in our office or other for different programs, but this is generally the gist that we bring the students through in our program. So first, the problem finding or defining stage. That's actually one of the longest. I mean, it's at the beginning, but it feels like it's the longest step because they really need to identify a good problem for them to actually like find interest and passion in as they go into the invention process. Because if they can't find that problem that they're really passionate about, it kind of makes the whole rest of the invention process fall flat. And in that, we use open-ended inquiry and to solve real world problems. There's teamwork and collaboration within and beyond the team. So to that point, we call it their invention ecosystem. So obviously it's very difficult to solve problems yourself. You need a team of people with multiple different sets of skills, which Christina was speaking to on the last slide, to help solve these problems that they're aiming to solve. And in that invention ecosystem, they also go into the community. They get mentors and others from the community that they're in. Then there's iteration, recursive learning, and design cycles. So they take what they're learning from the community, using their skills, or designing something to solve the problem that they came to, and they're creating something to solve it. They're testing it out, making changes, and going from there. And obviously embracing learning from failure and uncertainty is a huge part of the invention process. I know some students, I mean, I come from teaching a math classroom. A lot of students are afraid to be incorrect when they're doing their work, but getting it out in front of it and telling them, hey, invention's never a clean process. You're never going to get it right the first time. Having them embrace that mindset and understand that things will not work, then they can work as a team to iterate and make it better. And obviously educators as guides, mentors and coaches who learn alongside the students. I tell my students all the time that I've worked with doing invention that, hey, like I know like I have a lot of comfortability in the skills that I really know how to do, but there's some stuff that we're going to learn this together. And the students feel a little bit of pressure lifted from them when you tell them that, because then they feels like, what, like it isn't like I'm supposed to learn this. No one's going to come at me for saying that, hey, like you're supposed to know this. Like we're learning this together. It's a big process and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's not up there, but an element of invention education, it's a lot of fun.
Exactly right. And that's why, what we're going to lead into now and what Brenda's going to show you is like, we could talk to you all day about invention education, about why we believe in it and about the different elements of it. But for us, I think one of the most powerful things that we can, give to you from this time is, how do you bring this into your classroom tomorrow? Like, what does this look like in action? How do you take what we're telling you, put it together and bring it back to your own ecosystem? So Brenda is going to walk us through a very intro invention education activity, and it's one that we love. And Brenda, please take it away, and then we'll have some time for questions and yeah.
So this activity is called Catalog Combo, and we're going to show you two different technique. But in the classroom, I have what is a bag full of, I can see what happens here, a bag full of different.
Brenda, we're losing you.
Oh, Brenda's internet's going out a little bit.
There, that I may have to go off of, well, a guitar, a hairbrush, a basketball, anything that you can find, a water bottle, a hat. So eyeglasses, pens, whatever you can find pictures of. And I've got some links to pages worth of pictures, or there are wonderful catalogs that can be found that you're probably getting in the mail every day, or catalogs online that you can get these pictures from. So just random items. And we have kids choose one of those pictures and not share it yet. And then we have them come together and in a pair design a new invention using both of their pictures. But for today, because we're virtual, we're going to ask you just to pick some item around you, any item that you can find on your desk or by the television if you happen to be sitting there, or wherever you happen to be, maybe you're at your kitchen table. Find something that's around you. And let's go to the next slide. And we are going to have you put it together with this item virtually, which is today a backpack. And we're going to have you pair your item with the backpack to create a new invention, a new product. And what new product can you make by combining these items? Now, if you were doing it in a classroom, you'd have the kids choose a partner and they find someone that they can pair their item with the other person's item to create the new product. And then again, what would the new product be that you can make by combining those items? So let's continue on to the next slide.
Yes, sorry, I was answering a chat. There we go.
And what we're going to ask you to do today is brainstorm a few ideas that your item that you've chosen near you can be made into by combining it with the backpack. So if you have a few ideas, then find one that interests you. Draw out your item. If you have a pencil and paper handy, just draw it on a piece of paper, and then give your product a new name. And here's where in the classroom, because we want kids to start thinking about from the point that they come up with an item and then take it to market, what would a logo look like for the product? And so this is a whole lesson that you can get involved with in what's a logo? What's the point of a logo? How does it work in the advertising fields? And I just will yank kids up who are wearing logos on their bodies, either Nike Swish on their shoes or just whatever logo they might have on their shirts, and ask kids what these students have in common. And it'll take them a while, but eventually they'll get to the fact that they've got logos on them. The point of a logo. And then we want you to write a tagline for your product. And what's a tagline? So what's Nike's tagline, for instance?
Just do it.
Just do it. Or incredible that we know these things just off the top of our heads for products. But if a good tagline comes around, you'll learn it. So we want you to come up with a product for your item that you have come up with today. And then what problem would your product solve? We want you to think about what functions does it solve and or serve, and then what materials might it be made of if you had a new item of what you picked up and your backpack. So think about putting those together. We're going to give you a few minutes. We'll give you about I don't know, we'll stop you in about 5 minutes, and if you're not done, we'll give you a few more extra minutes to finish up, and then come up with, if you can, a logo, and come up with your favorite drawing that you might put together of your new item and a tagline. So spend a few minutes doing that. We're going to play some music in the background that should be work music for you, I'm sure. And we'll stop the slides for a few minutes as soon as we decide to share some of your ideas out. So take a few minutes, find your item, combine it with the backpack, and then think about what would your logo be and what might your tagline be, and draw a picture of it that you might be willing to share. Okay.
And what I would suggest is, just because I'm going to stop share here, is maybe take a photo of this slide just so you're able to be reminded of it if needed. So maybe take a quick photo to the steps that Brenda wants you to take. And in the meantime, I'm going to play DJ, and half of you are probably going to hate it and half of you are going to love it, but we're all going to live with it. So.
Not hearing it. You
Oh,
may
you
have
don't
to
hear
sing.
it?
No, Christina, you may have to sing.
Can you hear it now? No luck? You can't hear it, Brenda?
It's sort of a little shaky.
Shaky. Let's try another one. I don't get paid to DJ. This is just my moonlighting gig. So.
Oh yeah, the rhythm of my life.
No luck?
We may have to just imagine some music in our heads.
I got plenty of that, trust me. We're gonna try one more time.
It might help if you play it directly through your computer, no?
That's what I was doing.
Oh.
I was playing it directly through my computer. Oh, well, it was working before. Maybe the silence is better. Maybe the silence is better. Edwin, do you want to try and see if you can get something going?
Try. Let's see.
I mean, you're definitely will be better at it than me. We already know that, so. my item. Are we not allowed to share it? We can't share yet. I get
I
too
can't
excited.
share it
I
yet.
get too excited. But Eric, while you're moving, I see your question in the chat and I responded to you. Share system audio. That's exactly right. But it says that already. It's saying that. Let's see.
We can do a rousing chorus of happy birthday.
Anything is better than me singing. So.
Hey, don't forget to come up with a little sketch of your idea.
I did put the directions in
Oh,
chat.
that's great. Thanks a lot, Edwin. So, and to name your product, to draw a logo, have a tagline.
Oh, now I see. Now I see. Hold on. Let's try it like this. Hold on. Last time, everyone. Let's see if it works.
Maybe.
So muffled.
Maybe it's not good enough. It's Rhythm of the Night by Corona, just so everyone knows. All right. Oh, 2 minutes and 2.5 minutes left, Brenda. What do we
Yeah,
got?
I'd say probably about that. And we'll see where people are in 2.5 minutes.
Oh, Eric, I see your course too, or your question here. I can email it to you. If you email me, Eric, I can send you everything you need. And I can send you, I'll put my email again. No problem.
Okay, how are people doing? People coming up with some ideas? Tracy, you look diligently, like you're diligently working at it.
I'm visiting the USPTO site next to get this
And that's a great place to go
This
to make
going,
sure
yeah.
that you haven't already been created. And it looks like Dennis is into it here. Okay, we'll give you another minute, and normally you would have a lot more time to do this, and when kids are doing it, and honestly, you can do this with very young students and you can do this with adults. So it just is something that will be able to span the whole gambit of age levels. I first did this with my 3rd to 4th grade students way back when. And they had a lot of fun doing it. Plus, we learned a whole lot about what logos are about and taglines.
Yeah, because then you start to think about them in your head. You know, when you're not working on it, though, those ideas will probably come to you.
Hopefully you can get to sleep tonight, Tracy.
I don't know. I think I
I'm
will.
about to add an extra, like we have the backpack, I have what I have, but then I want to add one extra element to it.
Go for it.
Okay.
We're gonna let you be creative on this one.
Thank you.
Okay, are people sort of coming to a point where they can share some of their ideas? Yeah,
Sure.
some sketches, good. Who's ready to share a sketch with us?
I can share
Jeffrey?
mine.
Oh, let's see. Okay, Brian, what do you have?
All right, let me put my camera on here.
Yeah, it's gonna require your cameras.
Yeah,
And then Jeffrey next after Brian.
let's see. Can you, whoops, my camera didn't go on.
There you go. Okay,
Okay,
you
good.
have to hold it up.
Yep.
And up. Got to get a little closer. Oh, good. And a little
Oh, yeah.
closer.
Can you see it?
Almost. It's getting better. Come get it closer to the camera and pick it up a little bit. Lift it. Up,
Okay.
almost, a little bit further. What
Yeah, we
were
can
your
see.
items?
All right, it says right back, and it says pencil in your next trek. And the problem so you asked what is near me. I had a pencil combined with a backpack. So the problem is that artists don't have an easy way to carry their art supplies, including pencils, into the wild for landscape drawing and so forth. So this solves the problem.
Oh, I love it.
I love
Oh, yeah.
And your tagline, did you have a tagline?
The tagline is pencil in your next trek.
I love it.
Oh, I love that. And what was the name again, Brian?
Right back, but it's spelled with a W, right back, yes.
Oh,
It's great.
I like that. Backpack, right back. Yeah.
Jeffrey, did you have yours?
Oh, you're muted,
You're
Jeffrey.
on mute. You're,
Okay. Yeah, so
There you
here's
go.
what I picked up, which was my car key. And I was, originally sort of stumped, but I ended up thinking about, what are the affordances that both the backpack and the key give you? What can you do with them? And realize, hey, one of the things that's often difficult about the key is that, okay, here you are, you're carrying your heavy backpack, your briefcase, whatever. You can't find your key, your hands are occupied, whatever. So I don't have a name for it yet, but the idea was you're putting the electronics in so that you can press buttons on the straps of the backpack to activate, unlock, whatever you need it to do. So that was the idea. Don't have a name yet or any of the logos or anything like that, but that was the idea that I was working with. So
sounds good. I always say I have no intention of stealing your ideas unless they're really good. So, hey, who else has?
I can show mine.
Okay,
Sorry.
Yeah,
Malene?
Malene and then Debbie, I know, wants to share.
Okay.
Okay, since I'm like in my daughter's room and I saw this big lamp, now I said it will be like, I don't know how to draw, but I put like in a backpack, it will be a brighter way so you can go hiking. But I need like maybe something that will charge because this is like so maybe with solar panel I can take this and bright my way in the hiking day. So this
I like
is,
that.
I love that, Marlene.
Yeah.
It's like a book light for your backpack, so you can be like reading. while
yes,
you have
it'll be
your
like
backpack on.
just a silly way. But I'll need to to leave soon. But I just want to say thank you. I'm gonna be doing this with my class next week. Just
Oh, yay!
that's I was praying that you guys will like because I need to get the steps right.
And this you can take for a day, you can take it for a week, you can take it for a month. If you want to, you can extend it to all sorts of different ways you can expand the lesson. So it's a
I'll
lot.
be with
of
my
fun.
ninth
Love it.
graders that they need to do a
They'll love
project. So we are like in the research board. So I'm gonna do the scamper, but this is better. Catalog combo. So it's like, thank you.
Okay, you're most welcome. Deborah?
Okay,
You're on.
Malene, Malene, I have just what you need right here, this product. Because I found this little solar lantern. So a solar lantern mixed with the backpack it's called sun packing. So you gather your solar operated things but if you backpack with them, you arrive without them charged. So the backpack has a solar panel in it so that by the time you arrive, you all of your lanterns and things are charged.
Love it.
That's
And
awesome.
it's called Carry the Sun Wherever You Go, and Sunshine on My Shoulder is playing during my commercial.
Oh, no.
I
Perfect.
hope you have your audio working better than we do. That's my only hope there.
Okay, let's give Angela a turn, and then we'll have to come back to the slides here, or we'll spend the whole rest of the time
And
sharing
I
these out.
I
They're
also
great.
think Sarah had a quick idea too.
Okay, well, let's start with Angela, and then we'll go to Sarah, and then we'll continue.
I apologize because I just come in and I had to step away for another call, so I missed the prompt, so I'm gonna
Oh.
pass.
Okay,
Don't
you're
worry.
fine, no problem at all. I thought you were giving the finger because you wanted to share it. So Sarah? I'm not, there you go.
Sorry, I didn't have time to make
Okay,
any.
that's just fine.
But my item that I mixed a backpack with was a pillow. So I thought of maybe like a reversible backpack to where I could flip it inside out and I could have a pillow.
I
Oh,
love it. I shared yesterday with my team an invention that was very much like that, that had to do with a jacket that could convert, it can be placed into a backpack that it turns into. So very similar kind of idea. That's great. Okay, well, you get the idea of what this is and how to go about it. And honestly, you can turn it into whatever you choose to. You can do whole lessons on what are logos. You can put kids together to talk about their own lives, and then how do they create a logo for themselves as a team of students. And it's a great way to have kids introduce themselves to one another and their different cultures, and then come up with taglines just for themselves. So use it however you will, but you'll see that kids will really enjoy doing it. And again, if you pick the different pictures and put them into a bag and have them pick them out, they can work together doing it. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, so I think Brenda, you were just going to share with us, like, kind of reiterate, we've already talked about it at the beginning, but just kind of close off the activity after people have something to bring back to their classroom of like, why is this type of learning important?
So we have a young fellow that we've met, and his name was Lino Marrero, and he started very early. He had a problem. His problem had to do with playing the cello, and he'd get blisters when he was doing it. And as a very young person, he ended up with a ring that he created. Once he got the confidence to be able to solve a problem in his own life, he began to realize he could solve more difficult problems. And as we've been saying, we have a lot of problems that we're creating for young people out there, global warming, all of the things that are happening. We are going to have them have the skills to be able to solve, have 21st century skills in their lives. So it's really important that we start giving them the ability to learn how to solve those problems. He became last year's finalist in Time Magazine's Inventor of the Year. And he went on to invent different soles for different sports he was involved with for his shoes. So he didn't have to buy a different pair of shoes for each sport that he was competing in. And then he went on to take the energy from his shoes and charge his cell phone. So he began to see that there are ways that you can start really tackling much bigger problems that you're going to encounter in your life. And that's what we want students to have the confidence to be able to do, to feel that they can solve the problems that they're going to come up against as they start becoming part of the world.
Yeah, so This is something that always blows me away, Brenda, as we're kind of closing it off. This can be like our last content type slide. So this is super important. So
Okay, so I became involved in invention education when I saw this study. George Land, who was a person who was studying creativity, he was curious about, is creativity something we're born with, or is it something that we acquire? And so in the 1960s, he started doing a lot of research on creativity. And what he ended up coming up with, I won't tell you yet, but I will tell you that in the 1990s, NASA hired him to find out who their most creative scientists were. And they wanted to find that out so that they could work on their most difficult problems. So he came up with a rather simple test to give to those scientists, and it did satisfy the point of the test. He found those scientists, but what he realized is he could give those tests to very young kids. And so he joined with the Department of Interior, and they found 1,600. Oh, wait, gotta put it away.
oh, sorry. I can't go back now, but we got to move.
Okay, we
Brenda,
can't go
so
back.
We got to
Okay.
move.
Okay, so he ended up giving the test to 1,600 5-year-olds, and what they discovered is 98% of those kids tested as creative geniuses. They then decided to do a longitudinal study, and they found at age 10, they took as many of the same kids, and they found out that 30% of them were testing as creative geniuses. They did another longitudinal, and wait 1 second, they discovered that 12% of them at age 15 were creative geniuses, and at its adults, they gave it to 125,000 people and discovered that 2% of them were scoring as creative geniuses. So what is it that was causing that to happen? And what they found out is that at age 5, kids use their divergent kinds of skills to solve problems. They come up with innovative ideas, and they're able to think very creatively. However, as we give them, we cause them to start then using convergent kinds of skills, which is like put the brake on your creative ideas, and that'll never work. No, that was an idea, but it's been done already. We tell them things that causes the brain to really shut down, and we are all a product of that kind of education. And what we need to do is give them the kinds of skills that are going to cause them to be able to recover their 5-year-old self and start thinking divergently again. And hopefully, some of these activities that you will be doing with young people as you move forward in invention education will cause that 2% of creative adults to turn back into 98% of creatively thinking people. So that was the point of this study, and it was what truly started me thinking we've got to be teaching kids in a whole different way than we have been teaching them in the past.
Yes, exactly. So I love that study, and I love, Brenda, how you share that. So now I kind of want to pause, and I want to stop and ask, we have about 7 minutes left, and what we're going to do for what we had planned is just to talk to you a little bit about the organization that we're a part of, which is the Partners in Invention Education Program. And we now work, like I talked a little bit at the beginning, about invent teams and how we would give grants away to certain exemplar high school students. And now we work with districts. We partner with districts in a membership-based program to provide them with PD, ongoing coaching and support, research-based curriculum, which is all built on these incredible activities that Brenda kind of was showing today, catalog combo, and much more rigorous activities leading up through high school and community college as well, even though catalog combo is used in high schools and the kids love it. So, but we have activities designed throughout the grade spans, and that's going to be the topic of our next webinar, is sharing a little bit about the specific curriculum that we have. So we are part of the PI team, and we wanted to kind of pause and ask, what questions do you have for us at this point for the last 5 minutes? any questions about what we're doing or about Invention Education? I know this is an intro presentation for many people, but we want to give you the opportunity to ask a few questions in these last few minutes.
I
Are
have a
there-
question.
Sure. I saw Brian and then and I didn't see who was next, but let's go Brian and then whoever the next person was.
I was just wondering if there are workshops that people can take. I live in Massachusetts. I don't know if, being it near MIT, if that's possible.
So yeah, we have as the PI membership, we offer PD is included in that, professional development is included in that, but we also have standalone professional development events that are open to the public. We'll have one at MIT this summer, around mid-June. We'll have one on the West Coast in Tustin, California in mid-July, and then we'll have our final event, fingers crossed, we're getting it finalized this week in Columbia, South Carolina. So we absolutely offer professional development opportunities, and this summer we'll have 3 different options. And again, as part of the PI membership, if a district bought into that, would they be able to send as many educators as they wanted to those PD opportunities. So email me, we can talk more, but the answer is yes, we absolutely do. And then next, was it Jeffrey that had a question?
I see Eric and Angela
Oh,
both.
Eric. Okay, sorry. Eric and then Angela, sorry.
Sure. So how much of this is directed curriculum versus PBL based curriculum, and how are you managing the PBL aspects of it? Because it's always, well, it's not something that a lot of schools do.
Great question. So we have spent a lot of time developing curriculum that has a very open-ended approach where the teacher is a facilitator and not they're the owner of all the knowledge. And that's most exemplified, I think, in our Inventing Smart Solutions course, which is the one you asked me about. The curriculum that we provide, especially at the high school level, it's not you start on day 1 and it tells you like, here's the activity for the day and it ends, go through the end of the semester and this is your assessment tool. It's a framework that we provide. It's a 6-unit framework that takes students through the entire invention process. And it, like you said, you asked about, has it been approved? It's been approved by the state of California A through G system as a 3rd-year lab science and an elective. And it is open-ended, inquiry-based, of course, problem and project-based. And there's a lot of exploration that the students have to do on their own. There's a lot of research that the students have to do on their own. We like to think of it as the guardrails. We're giving the guardrails to the educators, especially new educators who have never done this before. So it's a mix between the structure that we know exists within the system and the open-ended nature of what we know education should be. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I just have to assess something.
That's what we're doing right now. Yeah, we build in certain assessments with teachers, but a lot of that, we leave it up to the educators. And that's what we're finding through our pilots, that they are developing their own. We provide optional assessments for the students. They have to develop, they have their invention journals. They have their problem statements. They have their invention statements. Those are all things that we can assess. Many educators, supplement that with close reads, with other assignments that exist, with PBS NewsHour Invention education assignments. So this will not be the end all be all, have every single assessment that you need for the school year. It's never meant to be that, because it's meant to be taught within different subject areas. So while in California, it's been approved in the CS pathway, it's also been being taught in Sacramento State University in a sociology course. So it's not domain specific. We want educators to be able to infuse their own content and their own subject area into this as a framework to get through. But there certainly are activities that you can assess throughout this, but you're going to have to build in some of your own as well.
Okay, yeah, very interested in seeing how that all comes together. I already teach a course where they're building stuff, and the assessments is the tricky bit. It'd be nice to have a framework.
Yep, assessment is the tricky part and we're working with a competency-based system now. And happy to share more about that. It sounds like we should.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's where the industry is moving as well, right? I mean, I come from Silicon Valley, and it's always about competencies, and are you making this competency and that competency, and then rubrics to get to which competencies you're doing well in and which ones not. So great, thank you.
Of course, I saw your email. We should definitely talk off, you know, in a separate Zoom. I would be happy to share more about the A through G course with you.
Thank you.
Of course. Angela, in our last couple minutes here.
Okay, my question is, because I find it's kind of challenging trying to get school district to buy into this program because it's new, quote unquote, new. And I think because they don't understand, and there's so many other things going on because of lost learning because of the pandemic. Is it possible to actually get a student, not necessarily my student, a student from another school that I see potential for this type of program? How is it possible to get such a child, and the parents understand that? I've talked with the parents. How can I get such a child involved in a program like this? Because the school, I spoke with the superintendent of their school district, and I mean, they're gung-ho, but time is just not permitting it, or they feel they're stretched too much. But I can identify a few students as young as 5 and 7 that can become part of this and do great things.
So that's a tough one in the sense of it would depend on the individual educator, or like we have a district model, a school model. We don't work with individual students.
Right.
We do invent teams, and students can join in Invention Convention, but my best advice would be to find a passionate educator within the system that can advocate for this type of learning experience.
Okay, and if I can't find one, I mean, basically that's it for the kid.
I mean, you can reach out to us and we're happy to brainstorm about ideas, but I think my suggestion would be take this information that you're learning and that you've gained through exposure with us and many of the webinars you've attended, and be that advocate for that student.
That's what I have in mind. Okay, good.
We're happy to help with that. You know where to find us.
Angela, where are you located?
Huntsville, Alabama, and this is Rocket City. And see, here's the thing. My background is fashion design, and I know for the NASA uniform, and they're constantly talking about the fire department needing better uniform. I can help these kids, but there will not be a district, period. I can tell you right now. They're not ready for it. It's not right now. They just don't have the time already for it.
Yeah. You never know. We've made some headway in regions that we would think we weren't going to have much success in. So we're happy to talk to anybody, any admins that would be willing to have that conversation. So we're a little short on time now, but any more questions before we hit the road? I also want to give you our contact information for the team. I put my email in the chat. Happy to have conversations with anyone who would like to further this conversation. Obviously, the topic of today was more what is Invention education, broad, high level. Next webinar, we'll be getting into the nuts and bolts of the curriculum, showing you the curriculum that we've developed. And then for our third webinar in the series, you're going to hear from educators in the field who have taken up this Invention education, and hear directly from them and have more of a Q&A session for you and for you all and those educators. So we wanted it to kind of be a natural progression. Let's see, am I missing any questions? Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. Does everyone have our emails? I was just hoping to stop share so I can see people and just kind of say goodbye. But I think Tracy put my email in the chat too, but we just can't thank you all enough for coming tonight. It's always exciting for us to talk about what we love most, which is Invention education, and to be able to share it with people. Again, some of our resources are open source. Anybody can have them. They're available on our website, and we're happy to share those out. And then we also have our proprietary PI curriculum, and with the PI program, you're getting the PD, the continued coaching and support. And so I'm happy to talk to anyone else who's interested in that, or just to talk about resources that we have. It doesn't have to be PI. And like I said before, our PD completely open to the public for anyone who wants to join. So would love a follow-up conversation with anyone else who's interested.